Hey, it's James, Father's Rights and Resources, hashtag HowiGotCustody. I just want to do a quickie video clip just to make it clear to some people that when I'm working with a client or doing a consultation, I can pretty much help deal with any case in any state in America or pretty much any Western civilization country. I've worked with people in Europe, Canada, America, and Australia. The thing is that people say, oh, well, the laws are different in each state. Well, or the rules or whatever. The battle for fighting for your kids is the same everywhere. You're dealing with two people who are going at it and it's ugly, and there's some warfare strategies that attorneys engage in, and there's tricks that they use that you need to be made aware of, and there's things to do to get on the offensive. Now, in New York, if you have to give 6 court days notice of a court hearing, and in Washington, you need to give 8 court days, that's no big deal. So the difference in the rules or the laws are minute stuff. We're talking about the art of war, or that's what I'm talking about, is the art of war and getting on the offensive and manning up and learning how to fight the right way. Um, the technicalities of the rules. I mean, most laws are pretty much the same all across America. Number one, every state starts off with the best interest of the child. I have a whole video on what the best argument I think is for the best interest of the child. And it's pretty much common sense stuff. And that's why no lawyer out there is arguing what's in that video. But some states say, you know, the court has to consider first the best interest of the child, whether the child has siblings and other extended family, which parent is performing parenting functions or doing most of the parenting duties, which parent does or doesn't have mental health issues, which parent can honor the other parent's relationship and parenting time with the kids. There's usually that same theme. Just because it's tweaked and different in each state doesn't make the entire war or the entire legal strategy, the entire battle different. It's all the same. Okay? So, just like in I don't know, criminal court across America, you still are innocent until proven guilty. The lawyers, your defense attorney still wants to play, tricks and games with the prosecuting attorney or get them, object to their stuff, get evidence thrown out that's a waste of time or irrelevant or could be prejudicial to your case. Different states might have different rules on the timing of that, and you have to file upstairs on the seventh floor in New York, in Michigan Supreme Court or District Court, and in LA County, you got to file on the fourth floor on the second floor. All those little technicalities don't mean anything for the most part. Those can all be found out. A lot of times people don't know where to find the rules or the law, and within 5 minutes of me talking to them in one-on-one consultation, I just Google the right terms and we find them. Or, like I said, in a criminal court, the main thing is the main thing. You're innocent until proven guilty. You have a right to due process. All this stuff that applies nationwide, all the technicalities of the little tiny things that are different don't mean anything or don't matter in the big picture. The big picture is: are you going to fight? Are you going to fight tooth and nail and make the prosecutor prove every single thing? Are you going to try and get evidence thrown out? Are you going to object to their stuff that they shouldn't allow in? Are you going to get on the offensive? Are you going to offensively get on the defense? And are you going to make them prove their case? And if they don't, are you going to take the stand or not take the stand? There's some generic principles that apply nationwide, at least in America, all across criminal court, even though each court will technically have, or there might be different sentences for assault in California compared to Nevada or stuff. But it's still the same general art of war that you have to deal with in fighting and defending yourself. Same thing in family court. So it doesn't matter what state that you're in. I mean, the fact that some lawyers, they cross state lines and they go and practice or get part of a lawsuit, especially if you're a famous attorney like I don't know. I just watched an interview with Michael Jackson's attorney, who also represented Mike Tyson on something. So he's done California, Nevada, and crossed state lines, and Arizona, and done other celebrities and stuff like that. So um, just the warfare of dealing with a court battle is the same everywhere. It's the same principles. I mean, you might have go off to war with somebody, World War One, World War Two. It's kind of the same stuff, but there's some technical differences in the landscape and how they deal with it. But the art of war is the art of war. Whoever beats the snot out of the other side is going to make the other side surrender. That's a principle that applies to everything. So the short of it is, it doesn't matter what state you're in. People want to ask me, "Oh, you're in another state, so you probably don't know anything about my state or know anything." I can look up the stuff immediately. Okay, you might have an issue when you go see a lawyer. They don't even know the answer in your state, and they have to go look up the law. All lawyers do are really people who are mouthpiece for you, and they go look stuff up. Now, after they look stuff up enough, then they start memorizing some of it, or they're able to look it up faster. That's really all they do. So when I sit down with people, we go and look stuff up and look at the laws in your state and say, "Hey, go look at this, go read this, get prepared for your court case on this." And this is what I did, and this is some tips that I have that worked for me. The way I conducted myself in court, the way I talked in court, the way I talked to a judge, and the way, like look at that video where it says the title is the number one argument for 50-50 custody. The stuff I'm talking about there doesn't only apply in one state. Those are common sense principles for human beings. You're going into family court with dealing with a human being, and custody and visitation with your daughter or son or both. You're going into court talking about human issues. It doesn't matter what the rules of that court are or technically what the laws are. As long as you got best interest of child, that's the place to start. And every state has that. So don't get hung up on, "Oh, James is in another state, so he doesn't know." I've worked with people all across the country. I just got done, an example off the top of my head. There's a dad who had every other weekend in Pennsylvania. He worked his way up to a few days a week. Now he's got 50-50 because he kept at it and kept at it, and he didn't quit and he didn't give up. That's the number one weapon a dad really has in family court. The mindset, "I'm not going to give up on my kids." Most dads lose because they give up, or they do something bad, or their lawyer sells them out, and they get a bad temporary order. So then they're so beaten down by that, they quit and surrender and sign off on whatever the other side offers or pushes on them. Or they don't really try and they fumble and stumble through family court and they're getting beat up, or the other side is just wearing them down and it's a war of attrition. And then they just surrender at mediation or before they go to trial. They're afraid to go to trial when a dad should be willing to take their case all the way to trial. 90% of the time, the other side doesn't even want to go to trial. 90% of the time, the other side is bluffing. They're like, "We'll take you to trial. We'll take you to trial." And they don't want to go to trial. They want to scare you into settling because they don't want to go to trial. I flipped that around. In my case, I'm willing and ready to go to trial. I had 4 3-ring binders that were like 2.5, 3 inches thick. I had about 380 exhibits I was going to bring to court for my second at court action. The mother objected to my relocation. I lived in Seattle, moved to Tacoma area. The mother lived in California, and she objected to me moving, and then we were tied up in court. We were going to go to trial, and then I got her to quit the case and throw it out. But I was getting ready for trial. I was ready and willing, and that probably is what also caused her to quit on the case after a year and a half. So relentlessly fighting, being willing to fight, and being willing to take your case all the way to trial, and being on the offensive, those are all things that they have nothing to do with the court rules and the law in your state. So everybody's all caught up in the law. Oh, we need to change the laws or fix the laws. The judges are corrupt and biased. It doesn't matter what laws are in place. They're still going to be biased and corrupt. "Oh, well, you need to know the laws in my case and know how to fight my crazy ex-narcissist baby mama." No, I know how to deal with those people. I know how to deal with bullies. I know how to deal with corrupt attorneys. That goes across the board. It doesn't matter what the technical rules or laws are in your state. So, and if you watch any of my videos, I barely ever really talk about the laws per se as being a big deal and what to argue in light of the law to help win. Now, I talk about some of the strategies that I would use, and you should know the law. You should know the law, the case law, the rules, the court forms. But the biggest part of this entire thing is getting guys to grow a pair and get on the offensive and fight, and being willing to fight. Finding how to do something or finding the rules in case law, that's kind of the easy part. The hard part is getting somebody willing to get on the offensive and fight like the other side is fighting you. Now, sometimes every once in a while, the rules are tricky and confusing. But again, the biggest part is getting out of the corner that you're huddling in and curled up in a ball in the fetal position and crying that the system is coming after you and doing nothing about it and getting on the offensive and fighting. That's the biggest thing. So it doesn't matter what state. I've helped people that, and worked with dads and mothers who have put on their own trials in every state in the country. Okay? And several people in different countries, and some of them schooled and beat up on attorneys on their own in other countries. So where you're at doesn't even matter. So I just want to clarify that. So if you want or need an appointment, my contact information is in the description below. If you want a one-on-one, don't be afraid that you're in another state that you can't talk to me because of that. It's all the same stuff for the most part.